Have you ever lost someone you loved so much it felt like your heart stopped forever? Samuel Barrett knew that pain too well. One cold winter morning, his young son vanished without a trace. Search teams came and went. Days turned into weeks. Hope slipped through his fingers like snow melting in his hands. Just when he thought life could not hurt him more, he found something in the woods, something that made him question everything he thought he knew about the world. A tiny creature, covered in thick fur, shivering in the snow, stared at him with eyes full of fear and trust. It was not human, yet it needed him. Samuel faced a choice he never expected: turn away or embrace the impossible. Little did he know, the creature he found would fill the emptiness in his life and change him forever. Could a lost boy's place in the world be filled by something not of this earth? Samuel Barrett was 44 years old, a man shaped by grief. Since losing his son, he had withdrawn from the world. His home, tucked deep in the snowy mountains, was quiet most of the time, the kind of silence that presses on your chest and makes the walls feel heavier. Friends and neighbors came less often, unsure how to reach him. Samuel moved through each day like a ghost, haunted by laughter that now existed only in photographs. He spent hours walking the woods near his cabin, searching for answers that would never come. The forest had become both his refuge and his torment. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of ice underfoot, reminded him of what he had lost. Snow fell in thick, silent sheets, muffling sounds, but amplifying his solitude. Still, deep inside, a fragile hope lingered. Samuel wanted to believe life might surprise him, even when his heart had been broken in ways no one could fix. On one of these solitary walks, with snow swirling around him and trees bending under the weight of winter, Samuel's world shifted again. Something moved in the shadows, a small life, strange and fragile, yet somehow familiar. It trembled in the snow, shivering against the cold, staring at him with eyes that seemed to ask for help. Samuel froze. He had no idea what this encounter would mean. It was the kind of moment that changes everything, the kind no one believes unless they see it themselves. In that instant, the forest stopped being just a place of grief. It became a place of wonder, of mystery, and of the impossible. Something or someone was waiting for him, and Samuel felt the first flicker of hope in a long, dark winter. Samuel walked deeper into the forest than he ever had before. His boots crunched through thick snow, leaving a trail that disappeared behind him. At first, he thought he had spotted the tracks of his missing son. But something about them was wrong. The footprints were larger than a child's, rounder, and oddly shaped. They were too precise to be human, yet too small to belong to a bear. They twisted and turned through the snow, leading into a dense thicket of trees where no one had ventured in years. Samuel's stomach tightened. A strange feeling settled over him, part fear, part curiosity. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back, to leave the forest while he still could. But something drew him forward, a quiet pull he could not resist. Broken branches and strange scratches on the bark hinted at a presence, something alive, intelligent, and hidden, just out of sight. Samuel had heard the old legends of the mountains, stories of creatures that moved unseen, watching travelers, leaving tracks that didn't belong. He had always dismissed them as tales to scare children. Now, the stories returned to him like whispers in the wind, daring him to uncover the truth for himself. The snow fell harder. Each breath came out in thick clouds, hanging in the air like ghosts. Samuel's heart pounded. He stopped, straining to listen. Then, he heard it, a small, faint whimper. It was almost like a child crying. His heart skipped. Could it be his son, or something else entirely? Samuel's mind raced, but his body froze. The forest was silent around him, except for the soft sound that pulled him forward, deeper into the snow and shadows. He took a slow step, Then another. The whimper came again, closer this time. It was weak, desperate, and alive. Samuel knew in that moment that whatever waited ahead would change everything. Something was in the snow, something that needed him, and he was about to discover that the forest had secrets far stranger than he could have ever imagined. Samuel pushed through thick brush, the snow brushing against his legs, and stumbled into a small clearing. The winter light fell softly on the ground, and there, huddled against a mound of snow, was a tiny creature. Its fur was thick and brown, tangled with frost. Its eyes were wide and round, reflecting a mix of terror and innocence that made Samuel's chest tighten. He froze, unsure whether to speak or take a step closer. Every muscle in his body screamed caution, but his heart pushed him forward. The creature whimpered again, a soft, trembling sound that cut through the stillness. Samuel felt a pang of recognition, not for who it was, but for the fear and need it carried. It was the same look he had seen in his son when he had cried in the woods, lost and afraid. Slowly, Samuel knelt, extending his hands, showing he meant no harm. The snow around them seemed to pause, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. He whispered softly, not expecting a reply, but hoping the creature would understand. For a tense moment, the tiny being stayed still, every muscle coiled with fear. Then, ever so slowly, it crawled closer. Its movements were careful, fragile, trusting. Samuel's heart, hardened by years of grief, began to soften. Could he save this creature? He wondered the way he had failed to save his son. Its small hands reached for his coat, and Samuel felt a warmth spread through him that he hadn't known in years. The snow fell heavier around them, but inside the clearing, a quiet connection had formed. Samuel knew, in that instant, that this encounter would change him. The forest had placed something miraculous in his path, something impossible to ignore. And as he held the trembling creature close for the first time, he realized that even in loss, there could be hope, and that hope might come in the most unexpected forms. Samuel carried the small creature into his cabin, careful not to startle it. He led it to a corner room, layering blankets thickly so it could stay warm. The snow outside pressed against the windows, but inside, the air was quiet, filled only with the soft sounds of breathing and the crackle of the fireplace. He fed it scraps of food, pieces of bread, a little cooked meat, and watched as its tiny mouth accepted the sustenance. There was a careful intelligence in the way it ate, as if it understood that it was safe for the first time in its life. Samuel felt a mix of awe and relief. This fragile life had survived the forest and found him, and now it depended on him completely. Over the next few days, he watched its behaviors closely. The creature was curious, exploring every corner of the cabin, sniffing objects, and tilting its head at sounds. Sometimes it mimicked Samuel's gestures, standing on two legs, reaching out its small hands. It made soft sounds, almost like words, as if trying to speak. Samuel smiled faintly, amazed at how much it seemed to understand. For the first time since losing his son, Samuel felt a strange comfort. The emptiness in his home, in his heart, began to fill with a quiet warmth. The creature's presence was gentle but strong, a reminder that life could still surprise him in ways he never imagined. He named it Koda, a word from old legends he had once read, meaning friend. The name felt right. Koda was more than a creature now, more than a mystery. It was family. Samuel felt a protective instinct he hadn't realized he still had. He knew that outside the walls of this cabin, the world might not accept Koda, but inside, there was safety, trust, and a bond forming that could not be broken. As the snow continued to fall outside, Samuel watched Koda curl into the blankets, eyes closing in trust. And in that quiet cabin, for the first time in years, Samuel felt hope return, a hope born not from what he had lost, but from what he had found. The forest outside Samuel's cabin felt alive, almost as if it were watching him. At night, strange sounds echoed through the trees, footsteps crunching on the snow, branches snapping, and low growls that were not human. The wind carried whispers, rustling leaves in patterns that seemed too deliberate to be natural. Samuel's heart raced each time he heard them. He knew they were not alone. Every shadow seemed to shift with intention, and every movement in the corner of his eye made him pause. He became more protective of Koda, realizing the creature's species might still roam somewhere in the dense woods. There was a quiet intelligence out there, a presence that was aware of him and his new companion. The forest was no longer just a backdrop to his grief. It was a living, breathing force, full of secrets and stories that had existed long before he arrived. Samuel learned to move quietly, listening to the sounds around him. The boundary between fear and awe blurred. Sometimes, he would catch a glimpse of movement between the trees, or see footprints larger than Koda's leading deeper into the forest. His mind raced with questions. Were there others like Koda nearby? Were they watching, waiting, or protecting him in some way? Yet, amid the unease, Samuel felt something else. A strange respect for the forest and its hidden creatures. He began to understand that Koda was part of something much bigger than either of them, a world that existed just beyond human understanding. And while he had lost so much in life, he had gained this fragile, impossible bond, and it gave him a courage he had not felt in years. Each night, as he watched Koda sleep safely under blankets, Samuel listened to the whispers of the forest and realized that the world was larger, stranger, and more alive than he had ever imagined. Danger might lurk just beyond the cabin walls, but so did wonder. And in this place of mystery, Samuel knew he had found a purpose: to protect Koda, and perhaps to learn the secrets that the forest had been keeping for generations. It wasn't long before the world beyond the forest began to notice. Neighbors started to whisper about Samuel Barrett and his strange comings and goings. Footprints too large to be human appeared in the snow near his cabin. Sometimes, branches were broken in patterns that didn't make sense. Rumors spread quietly at first, then louder, strange noises at night, glimpses of something moving between the trees, and a cabin that seemed to hold secrets no one could explain. Samuel ignored the chatter. He didn't need validation from anyone. His focus was on Koda, the small creature that had claimed his heart. Outside judgment could not compare to the fragile trust and connection they shared. Still, he knew discovery was inevitable. People feared what they did not understand, and fear often turned to suspicion or worse. Even as whispers of monster and wild creature floated through the town, Samuel felt something new stir within him. Koda was more than a mystery. He was a teacher, showing Samuel lessons in patience, resilience, and love. Every day spent with the creature reminded him of hope, hope that he hadn't felt in years, hope that life could still offer something extraordinary, even after unimaginable loss. The rumors made Samuel wary. He built routines around safety, observing Koda's behavior and ensuring the little creature never wandered too far. Yet, the forest still called to them, its secrets too strong to ignore. Samuel realized that the world outside might never accept Koda. But inside the cabin, in the quiet of snow and shadows, there was understanding, trust, and a bond that transcended fear. In those moments, Samuel understood that the opinions of others no longer mattered. Koda had changed everything. The boy he had lost could never return, but this small, impossible life offered something just as powerful: a chance to heal, to protect, and to rediscover the wonder in a world he had thought cold and empty. The whispers outside could not touch the truth they had found together. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Samuel watched Koda grow stronger, more curious, and more intelligent with every passing day. The little creature learned quickly. mimicking gestures, understanding routines, and even communicating in sounds and movements only Samuel could interpret. Each day, their bond deepened, silent but powerful, built on trust and shared understanding. Samuel felt something stir in his soul that he hadn't felt in years, a quiet healing. Koda was not his son, but in some strange, impossible way, the creature was filling a space left empty for far too long. It wasn't replacement. It was something new, extraordinary, a second chance at connection and love. He began to notice the lessons hidden in everyday moments. Patience, as he waited for Koda to trust a new routine. Empathy, as he watched the creature struggle or play, and learned to feel its emotions deeply. Unconditional love, as Koda leaned into him without hesitation, offering loyalty and companionship without question. Koda became a mirror of what Samuel had lost and what he could still protect. In teaching, caring, and understanding the creature, Samuel rediscovered parts of himself he thought had died with his son. He saw the world differently now, not just as a place of grief and loss, but as a place capable of wonder, growth, and healing. At night, he would sit by the fire while Koda explored the cabin, sometimes stopping to meet his gaze. In those quiet moments, words were unnecessary. The bond between them spoke louder than any voice, stronger than any fear. Samuel understood that love could take many forms, and that hope could arrive in shapes he had never imagined. The forest outside remained alive, still mysterious and unpredictable, but inside the cabin, a different kind of life thrived. One built on trust, care, and the silent lessons of a creature that had walked into his world when he needed it most. And in that silence, Samuel finally felt whole again. Samuel continued to live with Koda, fully aware that the creature could never truly belong to human society. Outside, people would never understand, and the world would always view Koda as strange, dangerous, or impossible. Yet inside their cabin, the bond they shared was deeper than words, stronger than any fear. He no longer felt the crushing loneliness that had followed him since his son's disappearance. Even in the quietest moments, as snow fell softly on the roof and blanketed the forest in white, Samuel found peace. He would watch Koda play outside, small and curious, exploring the snowy world with wonder in his eyes. Each movement, each joyful stumble, reminded Samuel of life's fragile beauty and the strength that love could give. In Koda, Samuel saw a reflection of both loss and hope. He had lost a son, a piece of his own heart, yet this impossible creature had come into his life to fill a different space, not as a replacement, but as a companion, a teacher, and a friend. Their connection transcended the ordinary, offering him lessons in care, patience, and the quiet courage it took to protect something extraordinary. Every day was uncertain. The future was unwritten, full of dangers, mysteries, and possibilities. Samuel knew that their lives together would always carry risk, but that uncertainty no longer terrified him. Instead, it reminded him that life could be unpredictable in the best ways, that even after heartbreak, there could still be joy, discovery, and love beyond imagination. And so, Samuel watched the forest, the snow, and Koda with quiet awe. He understood that some bonds could never be explained, only felt. Some stories could never be told, only lived. And in the silence of winter, with the soft sound of footsteps in the snow and the warmth of Koda by his side, Samuel finally felt the world opening again, full of wonder, mystery, and a future he could not have imagined, yet one he was ready to embrace. Samuel stood at the edge of the forest, snow crunching softly beneath his boots. Koda disappeared into the trees for a moment, then returned, small and agile, eyes shining with curiosity and trust. Samuel felt a rush of awe, love, and humility all at once. Life had taken something precious from him, but it had also given him something extraordinary, something impossible. The snow fell gently around them, blanketing the world in quiet. The forest seemed to hold its breath, as if it, too, recognized the uniqueness of this bond. Samuel knew the world outside would never understand. Friends, neighbors, strangers, they would see only mystery, maybe fear, and that was okay. Some stories were not meant for telling. Some were meant to live quietly in the heart, carried in memory, trust, and love. He smiled faintly, the weight in his chest lifting for the first time in years. He did not feel whole because he had replaced what he lost, but because he had embraced something impossible, something that had chosen him. In Koda's eyes, Samuel saw wonder, connection, and a reminder that even in loss, life could surprise you in the most unimaginable ways. And in that silent snow, with the forest around them, Samuel understood. Some gifts were too extraordinary to explain, yet too precious to ever forget.